performer. I've performed at Flint Center many times, and I definitely took lead and started a petition. And within that, the link is over there, which I can share it to you for your study group. And within a span of 2.5 days, we had around 2,700 signatures. I said, yes, we got the voices hearing and we are good to go. Everybody who I talked to were saying that, yes, we can do this, we can go to the board and shout on top of our voices saying that we can save the Flint Center from being shut down, because the board were having a meeting to decide back in June to keep the Flint Center open or close it. Can you go to the next slide? So I have also given some background information on Flint Center, and there was a survey that was open to district, and the district survey results very clearly proved that 80% of them wanted to keep the Flint Center open. So everything was going positive, right? So I said, let's go to the board meeting, and I prepared a nice speech, a very passionate speech, and I said, we'll make this happen. And I went there, I spoke, and I showed the petition link to people, to board members everywhere. Everybody, of course, including Gilbert, were very charming. They were listening to me saying that, yeah, we need it. At the end of the meeting, what happens? They decide to close the Flint Center. It was I was completely shocked, because there were lots of students who were there at the meeting, and there were lots of faculty members who were there, and they were wanting to have a housing instead of the Flint Center. Now, I'm not against housing at all. I'm definitely in for student housing. My argument was that why use Flint Center rather than use some other facility inside the Flint Center or De Anza College facility for housing. So I was very disturbed, and then I had two choices over there, right? I could have given up, because the board already announced that right now the decision is to close, but we have till October to decide what to do in that place. So either I could give up, saying that fine, the board has decided, let me not do anything and sleep about it, or do something about it, right? And can you go to the other slide? Actually, to the next one. So, three things, right? Persistence, creativity, and connecting the dots. For that persistence, I said that I'm not going to give up. I have time till October. I'm going to fight for this cause, gather as much as information, create some rallies, create a campaign, and make some noise about it. And how did I get it? Through persistence. The persistence word is not a new word for all of you, right? But what fine arts, me being in fine arts, performing arts, to master in any art form, whether it is dance or music or flute or singing, you need to go through a rigorous training of 7 to 8 plus years. And that's what taught me. Because of that persistence, I'll give you an example. When I started my company's name is VerveCon, part of which I had to host a conference for women in technology. For the first time, it was being held in Santa Clara Convention Center. So I went to my colleagues and said that, hey, you know what? I have 19 plus years of experience at Google and Microsoft. I'm going to do this cool thing. I'm going to call the CEO of a few companies, and all of these are going to be there. So come. And guess what? I opened up the registration, and I was told that women just don't attend conferences at all. It was a conference for women in technology. So I said, I'm not going to believe you. And I opened up the registration link, and I blasted in my LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. For 25 days, can you guess the number of registrations I had in my account? Can you guess? Nelson, can you guess? 1,000. Zero. Absolutely zero. My date for the conference was February 19th. Until Jan 1st, I had 0 registrations. So I didn't give up. I started thinking, let the creativity flow. I need to think out of the box here. So I needed to have a keynote, and I wanted to invite CEO of a company called SurveyMonkey. Have you heard of SurveyMonkey? Right? So her name is Selena Tobacowala, and I said I need to get her attention going on. And obviously when I gave her a LinkedIn request, she would not accept me. And I love SurveyMonkey as a product, but I needed to do something out of the box here. So I sent an email to her saying, the subject being my problems with SurveyMonkey. my problems with SurveyMonkey. Obviously that got to her attention and she clicked on it. But did I give any problems for that company? No, I in fact praised every single aspect of SurveyMonkey over there, and I said, my problem is I'm in too much love with SurveyMonkey. That's what I ended my email with, and I said, please come as keynote to my conference. And within 20 minutes, I got an email from her saying that, I love the way you put it to me, and I'm accepting the invitation. And things started rolling. Yes, from 0 registrations from January 1st to February 19th, we got 1,500 registrations, and the conference was one of its kind. I was featured in Forbes, claiming that this was one of the best women in tech conferences. What I'm trying to tell here is, I want to quote another example of Steve Jobs. He loves calligraphy. Do you guys know calligraphy, right? How many of you know that Steve Jobs actually took calligraphy course? All of you know. Most of you know. So, did he think at that point of time that when he was actually learning calligraphy that he would use it for fonts while he was inventing his first Macintosh? No. So what I'm trying to tell here is performing arts is a life skill, and that's where the connecting the dots comes into picture, that you can connect the dots to whatever you do in the future. And that's what helped me, and I'm standing here in front of you, and I wanted to give those examples. Now, if you go back to the previous slide. Sorry. I want you to use all those 3, persistence, creativity, and connecting the dots concept, and come up with a unique campaign study. In this case study, you guys will, I just gave some starter ideas. You will go back to the website and study about the board members, their profiles, understand the district survey results. I'll provide the links, and study similar examples in the country and understand the operational methods of similar performing arts centers that we have of that capacity, and come up with campaign ideas and community outreach on how you can convince the board and not close the Flint Center. Let's give that mock-up scenario where I would be in the board at the end of your study group, and you would have to convince, I'll be one of the mean board members, and say that yes, we are going to close down, and your job is to convince me that you're up for it, and you have to make sure that we are open. Got it? That's what I wanted to talk about the case study. Thanks, Leon.
Next is we welcome Michael Goldman, who is the Sunnyvale City Council member. And about the housing crisis, he has done a lot of data analysis on this issue.
Hi, how are you? You're nice and cash, and last night I was pretty casual. So you've gone from formal to casual, and I've gone casual to formal. We've kept the average the same. I think that's really important. I'm going to walk a little stiffly because this being Saturday and all, I took a shower, and coming out, I went, phew, and so my side hit the side of the tub, and I'm going like, ugh. So I'll be lifting with my left hand. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about housing crisis. How many people have heard of housing crisis? Wow, everyone. Who knows what a crisis is? That simple definition, forget housing, you know, what's a crisis?
Disaster?
No, it's a turning point. It means in Greek, a turning point, and it means exactly the same thing in English. Greek, English, sort of the same. For example, the labor negotiations are at a crisis. If they don't reach an agreement, there will be a strike. So two paths, agreement or strike. Or the patient is at a critical stage, he's in a crisis. If the fever doesn't break, we'll have to do something drastic. So 2 choices, the fever breaks or we do something drastic. Crisis means turning point, like 2 roads, you go left or you right. So the housing crisis, he was right even though he was wrong, because people are not taking the literal dictionary definition. They're saying, oh my God, it's a crisis, we have to do something. Like if the Germans and Russians don't make an agreement, then there will be war, or a trade war, or something like that. So if housing crisis, what does that mean? Well, it means we should all panic, of course, and do whatever the people in authority say, but I'm not sure myself. So maybe one of the things that I'd like our groups to work on is try and get from the people who use the establishment people in newspaper and on in Sacramento and stuff, to say what defines the crisis. If we don't do what will be the alternative? Because I don't know, and I'd like you to find out, because they might answer you, and they probably won't answer me, and I don't have a lot of time anyway. So that's one thing. This is, by the way, okay, so housing density is another thing. Everyone should walk to work, because we have a climate crisis, and that is a real crisis. If we don't fix it, we're all going to die, and that's a problem. The planet will be fine, it just will be kind of barren and very hot. So that's a crisis. We do something or else something bad happens. So density, a lot of people argue for density. If we were dense, everyone could walk to work. Like this is Queens, New York. Queens is one of the boroughs. New York is big enough, it's like 5 counties, and they're called boroughs. This is the county and borough of Queens, typical place. So, what is it, 7 stories, I think? And not a lot of parking, because that was built before World War II, so very few people had cars. Can we go to, okay, no, back the other one. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'll take it. So, oh, by the way, this is Palo Alto, when the sea level rises about 2050, and this is about 2075, when the sea level rises even more. And it's very expensive to build, what do you call it, levees around the bay, because you have to cover the whole bay, or if you just cover part of it, it'll go in the side, right? How long do you think if the sea level, well, the sea level is probably going to rise this much, because this heat is already in the oceans, and it's going to come out. It's just going to. So it takes a while. By geologists count in hundreds of thousands of years. For them, it's nothing. But for us, it's a lifetime, half a lifetime. You'll see it before you're my age, well before you're my age. And how long do we have? Okay, question. How long will, if we put up levees, dikes, dams, how long will they have to last for the waters to go down? Anybody? 100 years. Anybody? How many think 100 years? How many think 200 years? What do you think? Yeah, well, millions is close. At least 10,000. Because once the ice in the Antarctic and Arctic melt, you need another ice age to get them back to where they were. And the ice age comes around every 10,000 years to get started, and then it takes another 10, 20, 100,000 years to really get going. A million years is kind of long, but it could be. So if we build densely here, I don't know. Well, you're going to have it's going to be like Venice or something. I don't know. So people aren't taking that seriously. They take this, and we need to look at this. I was talking with someone who's used to work for San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, one of the supervisors there, and he said the whole San Mateo County, the populated part on the edge, it's mostly gone. But the main thing is the airport. SFO, which is in San Mateo County, the runways are 2 feet above sea level. We're going to have a 3 feet above sea level by 2050, and you can't put walls around the thing, then the airplanes can't land. Next time you go to SFO, think about, that's a big place. How are you going to move it and where? So they're kind of in a dither. They're kind of like deer looking at the headlights going like, duh. Yeah, so that was an accident. Let me try and find what I was saying. Okay, so this is Palo Alto, quite a while ago. And this is also Queens. And where do you think this is? Where do you think this is? Where do you think that is? Just choose, come on. Fremont, California, maybe? Palo Alto, what do you think? It's Queens. It's Queens also. You can have a county with tall buildings and still have moderate kind of suburban housing. And there are places in Brooklyn that are exactly the same. There are no places in Manhattan like that, but that's why Manhattan's expensive. So what's the most densely built area in the US, do you think? Just random guess. Sunnyvale? Cupertino?
East Orange, New Jersey.
What? Okay, let me qualify that. Major big city. Yeah, like metro area, not a particular. Okay, metro area like the Cleveland metro area, Detroit metro area. San Francisco proper is actually the city, the 49 square miles. That's very dense. It's about as dense as Queens. But the densest area is New York City, the metro area. The densest part of New York City, the metro area, is the city proper. The densest part of the city proper is Manhattan. Manhattan is 24 square miles, which is about the size of Sunnyvale, so it's not that big. The densest part of Manhattan is Lower Manhattan, where Park Avenue and Wall Street are. What's the most expensive real estate in the country?
Is it like the Fifth Avenue, like south of Central
Yeah,
Park?
exactly right. So the densest area is the most expensive. So when we say, let's get more dense, we have to ask, what are we getting into? Now, it's actually complicated. And in our group, we're going to explore that complication. Philadelphia is also very dense, but it's not very expensive. And the reason is because it used to be more dense. And then everyone got a car after World War II, and they left. They went to the suburbs. And now it's not so dense. It's still dense, though. Baltimore and Philadelphia are still dense. And a lot of people left New York. There's a lot of building going on in New York, Brooklyn and Manhattan and everything. Real estate there is really expensive. It's about, it varies, but it's around $60 million an acre. Depends, you know. Around here it's about, it varies again, but it's around $7-8 million an acre. So we have a ways to go. What happened in New York? When do you think the Manhattan was the absolute densest it ever was? The highest population in Manhattan. It hasn't changed the boundaries. What do you think the densest year? 1950 or 2010? Or, oh, okay, you got it.
2019.
No, the densest was in 1915. There were 2.4 million people there, and now it's changed a little bit. It's about 1.5. So they went from 2.4 to about call it 1.6. So they lost about a third of the population. What happened to it? Philadelphia lost a lot of their population too. They lost about 40% from 1950 to now. What happened was it got more expensive because all the poor people that were crammed the whole family into a room said, "The heck with this! I'm going to the farms of fields of Brooklyn," and they developed that. And so what was left was the Wall Street financiers, and they just built their mansions and got rich. They're still doing that. So we're going to talk about that, and you're going to look at your own city. If you're from Cupertino, I've done something that you can expand it. If you're from like Fremont, I haven't looked at that at all, but you can take some of the stuff I've done and improve on it. I'd like my groups to kind of get better than me. If you're as good as me when we're done, I failed. You have to be better than me because I've already done that. All you have to do is copy that and then go on from there. So that's my goal. Okay, thanks.
Now, third group, so after we build all the housing, transit is the most important thing, and Eugene and Leanna Crabtree will lead us into another area.
Hey everybody, I'm Eugene, founder of the Silicon Valley Transit Users, a public transit advocacy and watchdog group for the entire Silicon Valley area.
My name is Leanna Crabtree. I'm a Cupertino resident and a supporter of the Silicon Valley Transit User Group. And I am what you would call a transit user by convenience, which means that when it's convenient, I take transit as much as possible, and when it doesn't work for me, I do something else. It's a position of tremendous privilege, because we have plenty of folks who transit is their only option. And we have plenty of folks who wouldn't give a second thought to taking transit because transit is for other people. And that's a tremendous frustration for folks who know that transit can be so much more than what it is right now. And I really appreciate Councilmember Michael Goldman's introduction with the word crisis, and crisis meaning an opportunity, a turning point, a decision point. Because that's what we have right now, right right now with our transit system in Santa Clara County. You may or may not be aware, but the Santa Clara County grand jury, just in June of 2019, issued its third report about concerns it has with the governance of transit in Santa Clara County. Unfortunately, Santa Clara County Transit is both the most expensive transit in the nation, and also, unfortunately, sort of the worst performance. And we think to ourselves, why is it so bad, right? Why can't we go where we need to go at the times we need to go? So what we're going to do in our workshop is have a chance to learn about our transit system and learn about the opportunities we have at this decision point, this third grand jury report in 20 years, to affect some change and say, you know, you got good guidance in your grand jury report. Let's take some steps to improve the service. So this is a transit workshop that we'll be running. So if we could, because transit is all about moving, if we could everyone stand up, please. And everyone stand up. I please. Ideally, we would do a little bit more moving, but I realize this is very close quarters, and even asking you to stand up is maybe a little bit awkward. But here we go. I'll read a description, and then I want you to turn in the direction, and it's really challenging because there don't have any windows to orient yourself, but this is the south, okay? So south, north,
West.
west, thank you, west and east. Okay, it's going to be important in just a moment. All right, so I'm going to ask questions. I know yesterday, I think Vice Mayor Ling Shao asked you if you'd ridden transit before, and a lot of people raised their hand, but then it turned out maybe a lot of people were taking transit in other countries where transit is the main mode of transportation. But my questions are going to be about taking transit here in the Bay Area, whether it's AC Transit, now Alameda County, Santa Clara County Transit, Samtrans, even Muni or something in San Francisco, okay? So, listen to the description, and if you have ridden on public transit, even, if you've ridden on public transit, including buses, light rail, trains, ferries, or gondolas, even just one time, turn yourself towards the northwest corner. Let's see, so this was our north, so this is our west. Turn yourself to the northwest corner, so you put your back to me. Okay, that's great, like I can hardly see anybody's faces, so good for you. All right, if you have ridden on public transit even just one time that included a transfer from one mode of transportation, a vehicle or another mode, it has at least one transfer. So for example, from a bus to a train, or a train to a ferry or something like that, you had a transfer. So in that case, you're going to turn to the southwestern corner. So just turn opposite around. Okay, so one transit, oh, good. Okay, a few, good. If you've ridden on public transit on 2 or more occasions, so then go to the northeastern corner. Okay, so there's our north, so there's our east, good. And most of you are looking at me, very good. If you have ridden on public transit so many times you have lost count, then point yourself to the northwestern corner. So there's our west, there's our north. Okay, a few of you. Now we're kind of scrambled a little bit. That's okay. Say hi to your neighbor there. If you have ridden on public transit while traveling with at least one other person, so you were with friends or with your parent, then look at the southeastern corner. Okay, you were with somebody. Okay. If you've ridden public transit while traveling alone, then look at the northwestern corner. You travel alone. Okay, good. If you carry a smartphone and you have at least one public transit app on your phone, such as San Jose Transit, VTA Easy Fare, or you use the transit option on a map app, such as Apple Maps or Google Maps, look to the southwestern corner. Okay, that's good. That's good. If you have a transit pass, such as a VTA Summer Youth Pass, still on sale, $70, a Clipper card, or a monthly annual pass for any transit agency, look at the northeastern corner. Do you have your own transit pass, like a Clipper card or something?
Oh, I do still have it.
A few of you. Thank you. Eugene's our excellent. This is why he's the president of our Silicon Valley Transit user. He knows his directions. Okay, Okay, here we go. If you see yourself as biased in favor of using public transit to meet your own personal transportation needs, raise your right hand. Yeah, good for you. All right. If you see yourself as biased against using transit to meet your own personal needs, raise your left hand. So we have the right hand up, and then now's a chance to raise your left hand up. Okay. If you hold both biases in favor of and against public transit, raise both hands. Right? Yeah, that means you're biased about some things, you like them, and then you're biased about other things about public transit and you don't like it. So then you put both hands up. It's like, yeah. Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. You may sit down. So, would you like to give a summary of what we'll be talking about?
I'll let you finish.
Oh, okay. Very good. So, for those who will be participating in the workshop and the study sessions that follow, the Silicon Valley Transit Union Users Group, transit users and their challenges. We're going to be looking at both this, what composes transit in our community in this regional area. Particularly, we're going to look at VTA, Santa Clara Valley Transit, but others, we have other connecting agencies, to look at how we can best utilize them for ourselves. And then also, because we are at this decision point, there's an opportunity for change and improvement for Valley Transit Authority with the results of the grand jury report. And we'll be looking at what kinds of things, what kind of outreach, activism, advocacy you can do to affect a VTA for the future that will be only better than what we've got today. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful workshop. And
Right, just a quick wrapper, just to wrap up what Leanna gave an excellent presentation for. Just to wrap it up, I don't know if you realize this, every person in this room in some ways helps pay for VTA, even if you don't take a bus or light rail. The food you buy, the clothes you buy, the clothes your parents buy, and the food they buy, they all help pay for it in VTA through something called sales taxes. That's something I found a lot of people forgotten, and then that just needs to be reminded here. So we're all the owners of VTA, whether we like it or not. You, Leanna, me, and everybody in this county, we all own VTA. I remember one of the grand jury reports, the second one, that said that citizens have to do a better job in making sure that VTA actually provides them with those services that they paid to have. So through our forum, our goal in our forum is to help you learn the changes that we all need to make in order to make VTA better. It's a shame that one should have to read another grand jury report about how bad VTA has been, especially when you, me, and our neighbors voted to have these subsidies. Just to correct one more thing, just to add on what the last presenter mentioned about being in a crisis. Let's understand, we're also in a transit crisis. And in addition, this is a crisis in which there are 2 turning points. We can either not have transit anymore and have full gridlock, or we're going to have something really world-class that anybody can use, not just people who are poor, elderly, disabled, or can't drive for whatever reason. And in a crisis, it also involves an impending change. So let's all make sure you come drop in on our forum and learn how we can all change everything for the better. Thank you, everybody. See you then.